Hey guys, happy 2021. It's been kind of a busy year for me modeling. I've gotten a lot done actually, and started even more. But let's get started. I'll show you what I've gotten done. The first thing is going to be these guys, and that is Empire Greatswords. Here, let's get our lighting a little better. They're Cities of Sigmar Greatswords, of course, now, and I keep forgetting to do the victory lap, as they call it, where you go around the bottom of the base with black paint. But these guys did pretty well painting them up. They were my big unit that I got all finished up this month. I started them about January 4th and finished them last week, and have been, like this guy, he was a lot of fun to go around the drum with the text, and even did a very small, like, little letter decal there. These, yeah, I did varnish these guys, yeah. But you know, they were fun. I thought they would be easy because it would just be, you know, a whole bunch of plate mail and Nuln oil. But then, you know, they all had their right arm exposed, and that was going to be yellow painted up. And some of them, like say the banner, you know, I had to do some sort of freehand on the banner, which it turned out pretty well. But you know, I'm no freehand master. But then some of them had the boot and the leg, which, you know, you had to go with the same theme, and they all had script on them. They all had these little, oh, I forgot the badge on him. They all had these little bits of parchment all over them, you know. And this is the only guy I did the eyes on. He looks like he's discovered that there is a scorpion in the seat of his pants. But you know, put a decal onto this, which almost was centered. Dirt. But you know, these guys turned out pretty well, and there's 21 of them. The unit size is like 10 and 20 and 30, but the box that I bought an Empire army right when Sigmar started hitting the shelves, because a lot of people bailed on the old Warhammer Fantasy figures once the Age of Sigmar hit, because they had little faith. They didn't like it. There weren't any, I mean, in the early stages of Sigmar, there weren't any rules. You just showed up with your models and you rolled dice, and it was, you know, it was the exact opposite of Fantasy Battle. But these guys, the game has turned out pretty well. It's a simplified, in my opinion, my limited play with the Sigmar, which includes exactly one game. It's a simplified version of 40K, where the wound rolls are always the same and the hit rolls are always the same. And it actually makes for a pretty quick game, and not dissatisfying. I will say that I did enjoy playing it. I played against a guy with some that was it, the Bone Reapers or whatever, and I didn't have any counter to his giant catapults that did 5 damage with each hit, and so lost my steam tank in the first round, and then lost lots of dudes over the time. But I got those guys finished. I also finished on January 1st. I finished these 2 units. Let's see if I can get them. I'll have to pick them up. Which are another, you know, 40 guys of halberdiers and swordsmen. The halberdiers were not terribly efficient in battle. They do get like a 3+ to wound and then a -1 to rend, but they are just 1 damage. And even if you hit a bunch of them, most of the big dudes are going to have saves and whatnot. The sword and shieldsmen, they did okay. They have a 4-up save with their shield, but you know, they're just not terribly durable. And if you lose 4 or 5 of them, you'll quickly lose more in the runaway phase. But you know, that gave me a pretty good, you know, 60 infantry to start off with that are all fully painted for an Age of Sigmar army. And you can see, you know, I've got this guy back here. This was a, you know, I think he was originally going to be like a battle standard bearer. And I've got some of the base coats on. You can tell I'm not going to go with yellow in the center. I'm going to go and paint it this blue and try to freehand an eagle on the thing. Luckily, if you look at medieval art, it's not really that good. And so that way I can say, well, you know, this sucky freehand eagle is period accurate. But that's been a majority of my painting, has been these guys. And still got a lot of guys left. I've got, let's see if I can put this up here without knocking anybody over. I've got 20 handgunners. I've got an old metal wizard for the Empire, which will actually be from the realm of metal. So that will work out pretty well. But building some other things and painting a few other things. I've been working on the general on the Griffin. Here is the Karl Franz version. And I like his white feathers. They're very stark. But if you look at all the other dudes with feathers, let's see, that I've painted with colors, and so I was thinking about coming in and tagging the ends of the feathers with those, with some of the different contrast paints to get that color on. But I still need to pick out he's got a medal here on his chest, and he actually does have a mustache, which I painted. But the eyes are so little and they're so far recessed in the helm that I just did not bother painting those. There's an alternate rider with a dragon on his helm, where I still need to do the shield on the front. But this one, he's got the rune sword here, and then you can take his little arm off and magnetize in the battle shock lance, which turned out pretty good. And you know, the yellow and Green Bay Packers scheme was not my intention to go with, but that's, you know, that's what it kind of ended up with. And once I get those guys all painted up, I can use them. I've been using my old King Leon Leoncoeur from Bretonia that I painted up years ago as the stand-in until I get this painted, because I've still got the Griffin itself to paint, which I've got him airbrushed with some colors on him, and I feel like he's just kind of dusty looking and not very, the colors are not very strong on the Griffin. And so what I plan on doing is I tested out here, I went over with snakebite leather there, the contrast to snakebite leather, and I'm going to try to pick out feathers along here, maybe along the back here, and just give some more bold color. And I need to do something with the feathers on his head, because they're just a different color. And I think once I do that and then pick out the tacking on here and get his chest piece on, he'll be a little more dynamic, and also the beak and the claws. But this was a fun model, and I actually did not need to magnetize the riders, because once I'm done here I can just pull them off they're just super glued in, and so I can easily pull those out. And they just sit into the seat pretty securely, and I can take them in and out and just keep whatever I wish to use as the ye old leader for the Empire army. But you know, overall this was a fun little thing to build up, and then airbrushing everything on really sped at everything. I got this all airbrushed in a day, whereas if I had painted by hand, especially trying to do the multiple glaze layers to get the white on the ends of the feathers, would have just been a pain in the butt. But yeah, that's on my building list. I've already worked on the base some, where I had some leftover wheels from an Empire cannon, and again just kind of dry brushed on. I put a whole bunch of skulls from the skull kit that they had onto here to make the base look more like, you know, something. But again, I feel like I need to do some flocking, not only on the base, but also on the entire army, just so it looks, you know, has a little bit more dynamism, interest on the base, because otherwise it just looks empty. And so, but we'll see what I can get done. I'll do that before I glue him on, because you don't want to try to put static grass under a giant Griffin. But again, yeah, I've got this guy. I've got another battle standard bearer that's got the giant metal flag, and it, you know, it's beautiful, but it's still unprimed. And I may build that one, and I may not. I'm going to be running Hammerhall with these guys, and they get a bonus for all the banners that they carry because they're revered banners, and you roll and you get an extra command point if you get a 6 for each of the banners at the beginning of your turn. But we'll have to see how that goes. I have been working on some other things for them. I built a metal volley gun. I still need to put the hammers up here, the firing mechanism hammers. But I've glued them actually 3 or 4 times, and they just keep popping right off. And the contact point is so small, I'm going to have to find a way to use a longer setting epoxy that is stronger to put up there. But I'll have to figure a way to hold them on there while they're gluing on there. So, and the super glue, which tacks it on there pretty good, but then breaks as soon as they're hit, it actually interferes with the epoxies that I have and causes them to not set. And so, fun times. I'll figure something out. It's a little bit of Appalachian American engineering. I also have this. If you ever get a chance to get a metal steam tank, don't. This thing was a pain to put together. It's still not glued together. This one was secondhand, so it wasn't too expensive. I'm not out that much money. And you can see where I got the Great Cannon's wheels from, is because this thing didn't come with a cannon. And I wanted a cannon on my tank, and so I chopped up an old Great Cannon because you can't use them anymore in the Cities of Sigmar. And I still have 5 complete Great Cannons left that are glued, and 2 of them painted, I think. But that was from the Empire Army that I bought. But this thing was, I stripped it, and then I pulled all the super glue off of it, and then I've had to epoxy it. It took me over a week to get it all assembled because I'd have to sub-assembly it and then wait for the epoxy to dry, and then assemble the next part, and then wait for the epoxy to dry. In fact, the cannon is only held in with PVA glue, which is not going to be a big problem because there's enough down in there on the inside to hold on to it. But my plan is to prime it with the lid off so that the inside will be black and dark and not be like, oh, well, you can see all the bare metal on the inside of the tank there, buddy. You suck at painting. This thing, you can tell you had to pick which gap you liked, you hated the least, and leave it up, because let's see if you can see it. There's side 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that make this skirt, along with the back piece and then the floor. So that's 6 different pieces you have to epoxy together, and hope that they then can take the top piece. And in the end, there ended up being a pretty severe slippage in the front, but not so much on the sides. But again, you can still see. And I'd planned on running 2 of these, and I had another one still in the shrink wrap that I was going to build, and now it's up on eBay for somebody else who wants a nice vintage metal steam tank, and I've ordered a plastic one just for the ease of building. I've built one. I've got a nice metal one in my army now, and I can say I have the cool old Hammer tank. But definitely going to go with the plastic. I mean, because if you look, like as it's set, I had this straight, but then it took 4 hours for the epoxy to set, and it just slowly drifted the smokestack to the right. And not only that, but the metal had been, the molds had slipped, and you can see there. I mean, that's just old molds, those old rubber molds. Silicon was just slipping and everything, and with plastic you don't really have that problem. And again, and then you have this, the mom and pop diner table syndrome. The plus side is that the tank commander makes a wonderful, if you want a human cogsmith, the tank commander is perfect. And he'll just have the Grudge Raker gun, and I'm going to make a dwarf cogsmith if I ever decide to run my dwarf army in Sigmar. I'll have them come from like Greywater Fastness or something. But there we go. There's that. I've also been working on my Imperial Fists. These are the last 3. I think these are the intercessors from the. I said no fear. Or something, not the big set, but like the small Get Started set that had the couple of Plague Marines and Pox Walkers in it, and had these guys and 3 Reavers in it. And I glued the wrong arms onto the wrong bodies. This body was supposed to have this guy's arms, but whatever, it all worked out. just the helmetless head will go on to this instead. I painted everything Everland Sunset, and then I airbrushed everything with Uriel yellow, and that made everything too bright. And so I went back and I dry brushed over Everland Sunset and have been slowly lightening up the yellow to a more fisty yellow on these guys, and painted their chest. This guy's arms are still not attached, so I can paint the particulars on the inside of the gun and also on the chest. So that's not too big of a deal. But after these guys, I'm going to start working a little bit on my Indomitus box and figure out what I want to do with the Necrons, if I'm going to try to paint them or do something else with them. But yeah, we'll see what else we have to do. I've still got some other things that need painting. I've still got my Stark Warrior, Stark Command figures that need to paint. This is almost completed. I just need to pick out a few details, namely the torches on the top, and then the purity seals there, and then some of the detail on the thing. There's some steel details that go around his neck and around his chest that need picking out. And then I'll have 4 penitent engines in my Sisters of Battle army. That skull could probably use a little wash because he's pretty white. But that's what I've got. I've also gotten finally got a Kickstarter that came in, which I'll probably do a separate video on, just because I don't want to get buried underneath all of this. But it was the Bloodborne board game came in, and oh yeah, I did finish this one, but well, not quite finished. But the Bloodborne board game that I ordered back in May of 2019 finally showed up, and they had a lot of delays due to COVID and due to manufacturing things and struggles with the Chinese dealing with the advent of COVID, and then us dealing with it over here and all that. And it's took a while for them to come. And then I had 2 giant boxes of like 300 minis show up, and I was like, oh yeah, I did order these almost 2 years ago, didn't I? And so I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with those. I'm either just going to leave them in the attic for years and years and then get to them and sell them later, or I'm going to sell them now. And so I may throw them up onto eBay and see what happens. But overall, it was a productive month. I've got 60 models plus, 61 models finished. This one's almost done. I just need to have a few little details on the Inquisitorial Codex, and then I'll call this guy done, and then just paint the base here. I did a rust technique with this that was so easy that it's ridiculous. It's just you paint it all over with typhus corrosion, and then take a sponge and do like Doombull brown, a lighter brown, and then lead belcher, and that's it. And it makes it look like a nasty rusted pipe. And I was like, oh, well, that was just way too easy. And you got the poor little cherubim flying around. I need to make up some script for his little purity seals. But yeah, this will be an objective marker. I've got another one that I've working on, because the new objective markers you have to have that 40mm base. And I've got these 2, this one and another one, and I got the whole box of the objective markers I ordered years ago. That could also be painted. But anyway, this is almost run 20 minutes, so that's more than enough time for you guys to hear me jibber jabber and talk and do everything. And then one day I'll get poor Brandon Hodor finished up. Once I figure out what color his boots should be, maybe black. And then I already know what to do with the furs and the basket and everything. But Hodor. Alright guys, well, we'll see you guys later. Hope you have a wonderful week. Hope you guys have an enjoyable Valentine's Day, even if it is not the typical romantic one. At least you get to do some hobbying or something. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you later. Adios.